For instance, I knew that Winston Churchill had been brave as a young man, but I had not realized he was the only prime minister in our history to fight in battle on 4 continents. I knew that he had been there right at the beginning of the Royal Air Force, the founder of the Royal Naval Flying Corps, but I'd never understood, I'd never really grasped that he had begun to fly a plane barely a decade after those machines were invented. And he kept going up in these rope and canvas and leather death traps. I knew that his career before the Second World War had been very, very far from the failure that some have mistakenly tried to describe it. And in his pre-war career, he helped found the welfare state. He reformed prisons. He gave British workers job centres and the tea break and unemployment insurance and the living wage, a great scheme, by the way, which we are now expanding in this country. By his invention of the tank and his championing of aviation and his superb work at munitions, he was crucial not just to the action in the First World War, but to Britain's eventual victory. He was indispensable to the foundation of modern Ireland, of Israel, of Jordan, of Iraq. He was also, of course, at the very beginning of the campaign for a united Europe. We cannot know exactly how Churchill would have pursued the vital renegotiation with our friends and partners in Europe, in Brussels. We can be sure of one thing. He would have conducted negotiations in his own superb version of French. And you will remember what he said to General de Gaulle at some critical juncture: "Et marquez mes mots, mon général, si vous me double-crosserez. Je vous liquiderai." And the reason he is so important to the world we live in today is that, yes, it is absolutely true that in 1940, and this is the point from which the whole book begins and from which it is suspended, he was the lonely beaver that dammed the flow of events. He was the nail on which destiny snagged her coat. He was the passenger who, as it were, burst through into the cabin of the aircraft and pulled it out of the dive. And if he'd not been there in May 1940, I really think that this country, my country, would have done a deal with Hitler. I really think that Britain would have made an accommodation with evil that would have been absolutely calamitous for European civilization. Whatever a Hitlerian victory might have looked like, it did not happen because of